Round 5 of the Formula 1 World Championship, the Spanish Grand Prix, was staged at the Catalunya circuit in Barcelona. Michael Schumacher and David Coulthard locked together, leading the Drivers' Championship on 26 points. But motor racing in mourning after the death of Michele Alboreto, the former Ferrari driver who was killed testing his Le Mans car in the week. Michael Schumacher took pole position, the 36th of his career, and his 4th in 5 Grand Prix. VIP guests at the circuit included Michael Douglas and his wife, Catherine Zeta-Jones. The starting grid looked like this. Michael Schumacher and Mika Häkkinen on the front row. Mika Häkkinen, who'd won the previous 3 races on this circuit. David Coulthard in 3rd place. He'd come 2nd in the previous 3 Grand Prix. Rubens Barrichello for Ferrari, also on the 2nd row of the grid. Ralf Schumacher, last time out at San Marino on row 3. And Kimi Räikkönen, the youngster for Sauber, had outqualified his teammate Nick Heidfeld on row 5. But problems before the start of the parade lap for the joint championship leader David Coulthard. Whether it was a new traction control reintroduced into Formula 1 after a gap of some 8 years that had caused him problems, whatever it was, David Coulthard was relegated from 3rd to last on the grid. At the start, the front 2 quickly away. Barrichello not quite as slick and taken by both Trulli and Ralf Schumacher. Juan Pablo Montoya went up from 12th to 6th. It was Michael Schumacher leading into the first corner as Barrichello fought back and retook 3rd place. The end of the first lap, Michael Schumacher had already built up a lead over Mika Häkkinen of 0.6 of a second. These two considerably quicker than the rest of the field. In fact, 6.4 seconds covered the top 8. Seemed as though it was going to be a straight battle between the 2 world champions. Michael Schumacher for Ferrari, Mika Häkkinen for McLaren. David Coulthard in trouble again. Problem on the opening lap meant that he had to have a new nose cone fitted and a new rear left. 15.4 seconds stationary in the pits left him trailing right at the back of the field. This was how he looked after the first lap collision. Out went Heinz-Harald Frentzen for Jordan. He'd collided with Pedro de la Rosa in his first race for Jaguar and his first Grand Prix of the season on his home circuit. The pair of them squabbling over the same section of track and the 2 cars embedded in the gravel trap. Juan Pablo Montoya chasing after Jarno Trulli, disputing 5th place. Out went Ralf Schumacher, the San Marino winner, picking up no points from the Spanish Grand Prix after losing the rear end of his car, heading over the curbs, and there was no way back from there. A straight pit crew battle for position between the Williams, Juan Pablo Montoya, and the Jordan of Jarno Trulli. Settled, temporarily at least, in favour of Montoya. Into the pits for the first time, the race leader, Michael Schumacher. 8.7 seconds stationary, not enough to preserve his lead. Mika Häkkinen came in from 1st place. Underway in just over 9 seconds and still in contention. Michael Schumacher leading, Mika Häkkinen in 2nd place and Rubens Barrichello 3rd. Jarno Trulli in 6th place with the BAR of Jacques Villeneuve having improved to 5th. Schumacher's 2nd stop. Once again, Ferrari pit crew swiftly to work. And again a stop of under 10 seconds. But that gave Mika Häkkinen time to build up a considerable lead out on the circuit. And he pressed home his advantage. Eddie Irvine's race ended at a convenient point, right opposite the Jaguar pits. Still no points for Jaguar in this 2001 season. Mika Häkkinen headed for the McLaren pit with a commanding lead of 26.6 seconds. Could afford to be stationary for around about 10 seconds without losing the lead. McLaren performed well under pressure, and Häkkinen was underway in a fraction over 8 seconds. Crawl down to the exit of the pit road must have been agonising for him, but he emerged ahead of Michael Schumacher. It was now going to be a straight battle between the McLaren of Häkkinen and the Ferrari of Michael Schumacher for first place. Rubens Barrichello departed the scene. Damaged rear suspension meant that he was on 3 wheels and forced into retirement. Häkkinen continued to extend his lead over Michael Schumacher. He looked certain to pick up his first Grand Prix win since Belgium last year. Coulthard in 7th place, about to overtake Nick Heidfeld, assisted by the slipstream of Fisichella's Benetton. Coulthard had climbed 16 places since the start, but Häkkinen was slowing. Problem for the race leader on the last lap as Juan Pablo Montoya went past him. It was now a question of whether Häkkinen's lead was large enough to prevent Michael Schumacher catching him. Häkkinen crawling towards the finish, Schumacher storming after him. Häkkinen's car eventually gave up. Immense disappointment for the Finn and for the team. And Michael Schumacher swept through and on towards the checkered flag that had been readied in preparation for Häkkinen. 10 points for Michael Schumacher from the Spanish Grand Prix. Ferrari began the celebrations. For McLaren, the consolation that although Häkkinen had failed to pick up any points, Coulthard's damage limitation exercise had promoted him to 5th. It was Michael Schumacher's 47th win of his Formula One career, and he collected the fastest lap of a race for the 43rd time, a Formula One record. Juan Pablo Montoya and Jacques Villeneuve joined him on the podium. Jarno Trulli, David Coulthard and Nick Heidfeld picked up the other points. Mika Häkkinen finished a lap down in 9th place and out of the points. Häkkinen wasn't the only disappointed man in Spain. Olivier Panis in 7th place, also out of the points after a lengthy pit stop cost him a place further up the order. Ultimately, after 65 laps, Michael Schumacher, a very relieved man, scored his 4th win of the season. Rubens Barrichello and Eddie Irvine plus Ralf Schumacher, the notable names amongst the not classified drivers. In Parc Fermé, Juan Pablo Montoya on the podium for the first time and with Formula One points for the first time. Michael Schumacher back in the lead of the Drivers' Championship by 8 points from David Coulthard. Rubens Barrichello and Ralf Schumacher, the only other 2 drivers into double figures. But how different that leaderboard might have looked had Mika Häkkinen managed to complete the race. Juan Pablo Montoya delighted to have scored points. Mika Häkkinen putting a brave face on the fact that he failed after a valiant effort. In the Constructors' Championship, Schumacher's victory extends Ferrari's lead over McLaren to 18 points, with Williams and Jordan the only other team into double figures, with Sauber and BAR their nearest challengers. Prost, Arrows, Jaguar and Minardi had yet to score a point. So as Häkkinen made it back to the pits, courtesy of a lift on the side of David Coulthard's McLaren, a chance for the supporters to celebrate and Michael Schumacher to reflect on a very lucky victory.
We both have done, I think, a very good race, very entertaining until the last pit stop. Then he jumped me at the last pit stop because he did a better last section in his second pit stop, and I was a bit in traffic and having some little trouble on top. But anyway, we have done a great race. Remembers me back to old days in last year.
Sympathy from Michael Schumacher for Mika Hakkinen. He knew he'd inherited this win.
Seeing him then retiring just in the last lap, 5 corners or whatever to go to the end, it's shocking, because he's really done everything right, and then something like this. I'm sorry for him. I went to see him because it's not the way you like to win a race, honestly, but then sometimes it happens.
Juan Pablo Montoya second, confirming Williams' rise back to prominence.
I think it's really exciting, the first 4 races have been very hard for me. We've been some competitive and some not so much. Here, I wasn't expecting to be in the podium really. I started 11th and the start was really good and moved me a lot of places up, and then just kept pushing all day long.
Jacques Villeneuve with his first podium place since 1998 in Hungary.
Yeah, it's great. The whole team, everybody in the team has worked really hard for the last 3 years, and the beginning of the season has been really, really hard, and to finally get a podium is great. I think it's the boost that everybody was needing.
A dramatic finale in Spain. Michael Schumacher and Ferrari leading the way in their respective championships.